for technical vulnerability and threat compliance, application systems security, network infrastructure, IAM, threat intelligence and monitoring for IT and OT, and infrastructure, cybersecurity, and AI-based assessments and analysis tools, which I just decided to add as an extra. For governance and risk management assessments, it's just kind of a high-level summary. I'm not going to go into much detail with all of these, just the highlights. And what I'm going to ask the folks to do is to save their questions for the end. You can see that there is a slide number at the bottom. If you jot down that slide number and jot down your question, then I'll know which slide to go to whenever I'm asked questions. These are some of the key points for governance and risk management. And since I'm going to delve into it further, I don't have to, this is just kind of a general review. And this is what a risk or a heat map or matrix might look like. This is kind of reversed for me because in the flight safety engineering environment, we actually flip this and use different nomenclature, for the risk assessment matrix. The way risk assessments are looked at is basically in this map off to the side. You have digital data that's reviewed, which includes any asset inventories that are conducted, threat intelligence, and vulnerability databases. And the report focus for the metrics includes risk profiles, likelihood of threats, and mitigation strategies, which all of you know is basically a risk register. Moving down to the next slide. I hate this that I can't, excuse me. This is how it's conducted, tools and references, and this is pretty much the format that I'm using for all the slides. So here in more detail, we have to identify and inventory any assets in your infrastructure, gather all data, perform a risk analysis based on any likelihood of any threats and impact of risks, and then prioritize those risks and recommend mitigation and acceptance strategies. And that's pretty much generating a risk report with critical findings and mitigation steps, which is your risk register. Some of the tools used are risk management tools like RSA Archer, Risk Lens, threat intelligence platforms, and the vulnerability database, or the CVE. Some of the references that these come from are the NIST SP 830 Risk Management Guide, the ISO 27005 for the ISRM, Octave framework, and Octave methodologies. The business impact analysis, or the BIA, is one that assesses any possible impacts or any disruption of any business functions that are critical to the running of smooth business. Some of the digital data that you'll review are critical assets, system dependencies, RTO and RPO, which I will look at in the next slide. And your reports will include recovery priorities and financial loss estimates. How this is done is with data collection, impact estimation, the RTO RPO, which is usually included in the disaster recovery plan. Some of the tools used are Fusion Framework and Clearview, and your references for NIST and ISO. Looking at recovery time objective and recovery point objective is basically you have your event disaster, and on either side of that disaster, you have data loss and downtime. You have a recovery point and the time it's going to take you to recover. So basically, you're going to look at how much data you can afford to lose or have to recreate as a result of the disaster, and how quickly you must recover that data and what the cost of the downtime will be. I just added a note at the bottom, which you can read later, on how mean time before failure and mean time after failure relates to RPO and RTO. Moving on to cybersecurity maturity assessments, those measure the maturity of your cybersecurity infrastructure based on frameworks like the NIST CSF and the CMMC, which I think is now in force and fixing to go as a requirement for everybody to have to adhere to it. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. The digital data reviewed and report focus has to do with policies and incident management and all the training logs used. And the reports include the maturity level, any gaps that exist, and any possible improvements that and recommendations for mitigating those gaps. How it's conducted is through manual data collection and sometimes digital data collection, gap analysis, maturity scoring, and your tools are the NIST CSF assessment tool and the CMMC platforms, and your references are, of course, CSF, CMMC, and ISO EC 21827. Moving on to a summary of technical vulnerability and threat assessments. For a vulnerability assessment, you identify and quantify vulnerabilities in the IT infrastructure. Your digital data reviewed includes configuration data, the CVE database, network topology, and your report focus are your vulnerabilities that you've identified, any severity rankings that you've applied based on the risk register that you put together, and any possible remediation. How it's done is asset discovery, automated scans, analysis, and your tools are Nessus, Qualys, CVSS, and NVD. And these are your references. Moving on to threat assessments, our favorite for penetration testing. That simulates any possible real-world attacks to assess any possible entry or vulnerabilities and how your defenses are built. The digital data reviewed includes network traffic, logs, and authentication method. Sometimes this is done with recon exploitation and post-exploitation. Your report focus will look at attack vectors, exploited vulnerabilities, and any defense gaps. Your tools are Metasploit and Burp Suite, and your references are OWASP Pen Testing Guide, the NIST SP 800-115, and MITRE ATT&CK. For red team assessment, this simulates adversarial attacks to test organizational defenses. And the digital data that you would review would be all your endpoint, network, and incident response logs, your defense effectiveness to report your detection gaps that you found, and your incident response on how you're going to cover that. It is conducted by recon, attack simulation, and post-exploitation. Cobalt Strike and Empire are some of the tools used, and MITRE ATT&CK and NIST SP 853 are your references. Compliance assessments include HIPAA, PCI DSS, and GDPR. And that basically includes adherence and to those industry regulations. Are they being included in your entire infrastructure system? Digital data review includes personal data, any access logs, encryption settings. And your report focus is a compliance status, gaps, and action items that are provided as a result of the findings. It is conducted by gap analysis, policy review, testing, and you have TrustArc, Qualys, PCI, DSS compliance, and your references are your HIPAA security rule, your PCI DSS, and GDPR. Audit internal and external, and I know I have a lot of auditors with me, so be gentle with me. Description and purpose reviews all security policies, practices for any adherence to regulations, and any internal policies that have been developed by the infrastructure that you are auditing internally or externally. Your digital data reviewed are all the policies, access control logs, audit logs, and you will report any non-compliance. and you will provide recommendations for improvement by a certain due date when you come back and re-audit and check what they've completed and fixed. Yes. Yes. Hello? Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please keep going.
Okay, I'm sorry. I heard somebody was going to stop me for a question. I'm so sorry. Going back here, how it's conducted concludes interviews, documentation review, and system checks. And some of the tools used are Audit Board and Teammate. Interviews, documentation, and review system. Your references are COBIT 2019, NIST SP 853A, and ISO 27001. Moving on to application and system security assessments, we're going to cloud security, and that description and purpose includes assessing security controls in cloud environments like AWS, Azure, GCP, and I'm sure there are others. The digital data you review are the IAM roles, the cloud configuration and the logs. You're going to report misconfigurations, data exposure risks. It is conducted by configuration review, log analysis, and automated scans. AWS, a trusted advisor, and Azure Security Center are some of the tools that are used, and your references are CIS Benchmark, NIST SP 800-144, and CSA CCM. Your application security assessment includes or assesses the security of software applications to identify all vulnerabilities. Your digital data review includes source code, traffic logs, encryption protocols. Your report focus are identified vulnerabilities, for example, the OWASP top 10 and any fixes. It is done by static dynamic analysis and manual testing. SonarQube, OWASP, ZAP are the tools that are typically used, and there might be others. Some of the references that I found were OWASP top 10, NIST SP 800-218, and the SANS application security. Your system security configuration review for a baseline assessment. This actually is just a check to ensure systems are configured securely by comparing settings to an industry benchmark. System configurations, user accounts, and firewalls are what's reviewed, and any deviations from secure baselines or hardening recommendations are provided. It is conducted by comparing configurations and scanning for misconfigurations. The tools used are Syscat, Tenable, Open, SCAP, and your references are the CIS Benchmark, which is your standard, the NIST SP 870, and the DISA STIGs. Moving on into advanced IT and OT cybersecurity assessments, we have specific cybersecurity audits. This focuses on audits specifically designed for ICS. It includes SCADA, it includes DCS, and PLCs. The digital data reviewed is the ICS asset inventory, the patch management logs, configuration settings, access logs, and ICS protocol traffic. Identify vulnerabilities, compliance status with ICS security standards, and recommended configurations and risk mitigation strategies, which again, you're looking at your risk register that you've developed for this. It is done by identifying and mapping ICS assets and configurations, any review of configurations, the patch management practices used, and any access controls. You conduct vulnerability assessments specific to ICS protocols and assets. The tools I found that were used were Drago's Nozami and Networks and Clarity. References were NIST 882, a guide to ICS security, and IEC 62443, which is the INSS. For passive network traffic analysis for OT networks, it uses passive network traffic analyses to monitor OT network traffic and detect anomalies without interrupting any of the OT systems that are currently active. The data that's reviewed are network packet captures, protocol data such as Mobius, DNP3, and BACnet. Endpoint and device configuration logs are also reviewed, and any type of connection patterns back to the main network. Report focus includes identifying unauthorized access, any protocol anomalies, any communication patterns deemed abnormal, and any potential threats or signs thereof. How it's done is to deploy passive monitoring tools to capture network traffic, like a sniffer or any kind of a tool that goes on the network to check the packet information. Using deep packet inspection to analyze packets without impacting OT operations, analyze protocol behaviors, and look for anomalies in traffic patterns. Some of the tools used are Darktrace Industrial, Forescout, and Tenable.ot. Your references come from NIST, IEC, and SANS white paper. Excuse me while I take a sip of water. Thank you. The OT specific penetration test testing simulates a controlled cyber attack to assess or see what vulnerabilities within OT systems. And this has to be done while not disrupting their operations. So you have to make sure that it's kind of transparent. Digital data reviewed and report focus include network configuration data, authentication logs, device communication patterns, ICS protocols, which you would find using Modbus and DNP3. And your report focus includes exploitable vulnerabilities, weak security controls, any recommendations, and how you want to prioritize those fixes, which will usually be deemed by your risk register, depending on whether it's red, yellow, or green. It is done by establishing control testing parameters, and that's primarily to keep from interrupting normal operations. External and internal simulations targeting OT assets are conducted. OT-focused testing scripts to evaluate vulnerabilities are also used. Some of the tools are customized Metasploit and Cobalt Strike, and your references are MITRE ATT&CK for ICS and NIST SP 882. Your IT to OT convergence security assessments include, or they evaluate, the security risks introduced for all interconnected networks and OT networks, focusing on any access controls between the two and any segmentation that's been implemented to prevent any kind of crossover from the IT environment to the OT environment. Network segmentation settings are checked. Firewall configurations for possible port breaches. Access logs are looked at. Shared network and endpoint data are also reviewed. And this identifies potential cross-network vulnerabilities, and that's what's provided. Any misconfigurations, risk of any lateral movement between the two networks, and any recommendations for network segmentation to improve a flow and prevent any kind of breach. It is done by reviewing all zoning and network segmentation controls between IT and OT. You have to evaluate access control and identity management policies that cross between networks, and also identify and mitigate any shared vulnerabilities across the IT or OT environments. Tools are used are Cisco CyberVision, Forescout, Palo Alto Networks for segmentation. And you have your references from NIST, IEC, and MITRE ATT&CK for ICS. Your cyber physical security assessment assesses cyber and physical security risks, and it primarily focuses in environments where physical breaches also lead to digital vulnerabilities or the other way around. Physical access logs are used, security camera footage, which is physical, but it is helpful. Digital access logs, any system configuration settings, and any alarm and intrusion detection data is also reviewed. Your report focus identifies weak points in the physical and cyber defenses, potential physical and digital threat paths, and provides recommendations for both physical and cybersecurity controls. It is done by assessing physical access controls and points of entry to digital systems. The SIS is looked at to ensure secure configuration, cross-evaluate physical security breaches that could affect digital systems. That's how it's done. The tools that are used are Honeywell Process Solutions, Rockwell Automation Tools, physical intrusion detection systems. NIST and IEC are looked at for those references. And you are going to get a copy of the slides, and I think this is being recorded, so that's good. Your ICS OT incident response readiness assessment, again, we're following the same track of description and purpose. This evaluates the readiness of OT-focused incidents response plans, including the unique timing and safety constraints within the OT environments. The data reviewed are incident logs, access control logs, device communication logs, previous incident response timelines. The gaps in incident response protocols, areas for improvement are reported, recommended OT specific response processes, and updated response playbooks. It is conducted using tabletop exercises to stimulate OT incident scenarios. Develop OT specific incident response playbooks for common threats, and evaluate OT staff readiness and their ability to respond to incidents. This to me is very important. If you don't practice your protection that you've implemented, you don't know if it works later on down the road, but we all know that. The tools recommended for use are Drago CyberLens, Splunk with OT integration, and your references again from NIST for the Computer Security Incident Handling Guide, and your MITRE ATT&CK and ICS. Your threat intelligence and threat modeling for OT, this actually leverages OT threats that are specific in nature and anticipate and model potential attack vectors against ICS and OT systems. The data reviewed are the OT threat intelligence feeds, the ICS protocol logs, the vulnerability data, previous incident records. And the report is including any likely attack paths, specific ICS vulnerabilities, and behavioral patterns of threat vectors, actors, and suggested mitigations. It is conducted by integrating OT threat intelligence feeds for proactive detection and use of threat modeling to simulate realistic attack vectors against OT systems. And of course, they're going to review past incidents to identify any recurrent attack patterns. The tools use, again, MITRE ATT&CK for ICS, Drago's Threat Intelligence, and Recorded Future. And your references are MITRE ATT&CK for ICS and IEC 62443-4-2. These sections change throughout the slides, and so you can specifically look at what needs to be addressed. The ICS OT Governance Risk and Compliance, GRC audits, are assessing governance, risk management, and compliance in OT environments, aligning with industry standards such as IEC 62443 and NERC CIP. The data that's reviewed are the risk assessment logs, the audit reports, the compliance documentation, the access control logs, and the user role assignments. Your reporting will include compliance status with ICS standards, any risk prioritization from the risk register, and recommendations for process improvements. It is done by performing a risk assessment tailored specifically to OT operational risks. Conduct a compliance audit against IEC 62443, NERC CIP, or other relevant OT standards, and review governance policies, role-based access, and risk management practices. The tools are RSA Archer for GRC, OT-focused compliance monitoring tools. The references are IEC 62443 and NERC CIP. Moving on to the next section, we have AI-based assessment and analysis tools. And this, the format changes a little bit now. We're looking at why AI in assessments. This gives us a brief overview of the growing role in AI in assessments. And the key drivers for that are the scalability it offers, the objectivity to deeper insight than what we can provide as human manual assessors and auditors, and cost efficiency. And our transition statement is to explore specific tools and their advantages. So the AI in corporate risk and compliant assessments is optimizing risk and compliance management. So the tools that are used are metric stream AI, SAS risk, and analysis AI. Some of the features are AI-driven risk modeling and analysis, automated compliant checks using a tremendous amount of large-scale data sets, and predictive analysis for potential financial risks. The advantages are comprehensive risk profiling and mitigation, real-time compliance tracking, and insights from unstructured data sources. AI in cybersecurity assessments is looking at securing the digital frontier through Darktrace, CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender AI. And the features are real-time anomaly detection in networks and endpoints. All models are trained to identify malicious patterns and automated risk scoring and remediation recommendations. So it kind of builds a risk register with the AI does anyway. Advantages is that you have faster detection for any threats that might come down the path or that are already happening as compared to a manual analysis. Reduce false positives via behavioral pattern recognition and continuous monitoring and learning by the AI. The AI in talent and skills assessment, this is transforming recruitment and skill evaluation. HR organizations are starting to use tools like Pymetrics, HireVue, AI assessments, and Calidity. And its features are, you have gamified assessments for cognitive and emotional traits, AI-based video interview analysis, tone, sentiment, and speech patterns. The coding challenges with automated grading, and the advantages are objective evaluation, minimizing human bias, real-time feedback for candidates, and scalability for large applicant pools. As we move on, we look at AI in academic assessments, enhancing education with AI. The tools used are Gradescope, Turnitin's AI, and Coursera's auto grading. Automated grading of essay, coding, assignments, and exams. There's plagiarism detection and originality checks that can be run by the AI, and tailored learning recommendations based on student performance. Those are the features. The advantages is that it saves educators time and ensures consistency. It provides personalized learning paths and enhanced detection of cheating or AI-generated content. So that's interesting, using AI to see if you're using AI. AI in health and psychological assessments, empowering health through AI. Your tools are Wobot, which is a mental health AI, and Babylon Health. The features that it offers are chatbot-based mental health screening, predictive modeling for disease risk, and sentiment analysis during patient interactions. The advantages are continuous, accessible, and stigma-free support, early warning systems for at-risk individuals, and enhanced patient engagement and monitoring. AI in performance and productivity assessments, which is maximizing organizational efficiency. And some people are already doing this. They just may not be using, personal tools right now. They're just using ChatGPT. Some of the tools that your organizations use are Workaday AI and SAP SuccessFactors AI. The features it provides are performance review automation based on employee data. It's real-time productivity insights using task tracking, and AI suggestions for team optimization and development. The advantages are that it eliminates manual errors in performance reviews. It enhances all decision-making with actionable insights, and it encourages proactive team and individual growth. For a comparative overview of AI assessments versus traditional assessments, the differences are their speed and scalability. AI tools can process vast amounts of data very quickly, and it enables large-scale assessments in real time. There's also objectivity and reduced bias. AI minimizes human biases by relying on data-driven algorithms, ensuring fair evaluations. Deeper insights, advanced AI models can detect patterns and correlations often missed by traditional tools. Continuous learning. The AI systems improve over time. As they are exposed to more data, they learn, they adapt, they evolve, and they can see any needs that are for any threats that are coming down the road. And personalization. AI tailors recommendations and insights to individuals or specific organizational context. The cost efficiency is that automation will reduce the need for manual labor, lowering operational costs. But then again, we hear the same thing that we've heard over and over again. AI is not going to replace people. It's going to replace people that don't use it. So what's the future of AI assessments? What's next for that? Emergent trends have shown in my research that explainable AI, XIA, is with integration with IoT, adaptive learning systems are some of the emerging trends. Expanding scope, wider use in leadership and team coaching, aerospace safety, and more. The sky is not the limit where AI is concerned. Long-term implications are improved accessibility and global reach. So in conclusion, a recap of Cybersecurity 101 and AI assessments and their importance. What are the key takeaways for securing organizations using various assessments? And I would be interested in knowing what the audience key takeaways are. Summary of the benefits of AI-driven assessments, and what are the transformative potential across industries for both types? And what is your call to action for the assessment